What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C. Let me tell you about a great place, Envision Golf. Indoor simulators have exploded in golf, and Envision is leading the charge here in Portland. With the use of leading simulator technology in Golf Zone, you get transported to 200 plus courses across the world with the most realistic simulator experience you'll ever come across. With a hitting mat that not only gives you the turf to simulate real rough and sand conditions, the mat also raises up and slopes to create real live positions like playing on the actual course. If you're in need of a lesson, Vision Golf also has you covered with the PGA teaching pro Ignacio Cern. On top of that, they create an atmosphere with full bar and food options and sports on all the TVs that you're never going to want to leave. This is a great place for all events to be hosted with the VIP section to accommodate groups of all sizes. If you live in the greater Portland area or even the Pacific Northwest, you have to come out to a Vision Golf and check it out in Tigard, Oregon. Use code MUNICIPALS and you will get your first hour for free on your first visit. Also, check out league nights and monthly events. Envision Golf, the Pacific Northwest premier simulator facility.
How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C. We are finishing up the Bend series this week, and we have our boy JD back again to talk about the first course. We kind of did this a little scrambled. Started with the second course that we played, then went to the last course we played, and then now we're going back to the first. So we are going to talk Juniper. Juniper is in Redmond, which is just north of Bend. I'm going to let JD take it from here and tell you, I think we both had the same experience walking away from it. First off, how you doing, JD?
I'm good, man. How are you? It's your birthday today. We're recording a podcast on your birthday, so happy birthday. Let's put that out there.
No stopping. I record no matter what. We get the content out to you guys. So, yeah, birthday night, recording with JD. Nothing would make me more pleased than recording with JD talking Juniper.
Did you at least have a nice dinner for your birthday?
No. We went to a birthing class, so no special dinner. Baby's coming soon, so got obligations. But I did get out and play. Gonna do a course review on the track got to play called Diamond Woods, and so we'll get into that on another episode. But JD, what were your thoughts walking off of Juniper?
I mean, I'd been to Bend a few times. Hadn't heard of Juniper, and walking off, other than being beat down by the sun because it was 100 degrees that day and my dumb ass decided to walk, it was a great golf course. I mean, good shape, fun layout. I think we even talked about it on the golf course that neither one of us are a huge fan of kind of what we would call desert golf, generally speaking, kind of A to B type of feel. And while it has like that desert landscape and kind of a high desert feel, you get a lot of views of mountains, albeit in the distance. You've got a lot of the brush that you'll find in different desert landscapes and desert golf courses. It wasn't overly penalizing. I mean, you get it going sideways in any golf course is penalizing, but it wasn't such A to B that it kind of had a parkland feel to it, if you will. So I thought the course was overall in good shape. It was an interesting design, couple of drivable par fours, couple of long par fives. It kind of had everything that you're looking for, a little bit of challenge, a little bit of fun.
So if I could compare it to anywhere, and again, this is more visually based off of what I've seen because I haven't played the course that I'm going to compare it to. But kind of the vibes I got off of this place was a desert version of Pinehurst. it's sprawling fairways that roll into natural fescue that aren't that can be penalizing, can create hard pan, can create different ways of having to play the ball. But if you're hitting good shots, the course is going to reward you with it. And I thought the green complexes were extremely challenging, and again, penalizing if you weren't hitting where you needed to hit it. And us being the first time that we've ever played it, I don't think either one of us knew exactly where we needed to land balls in the fairway to have best, entrance into the greens and coming in, and where to land it on the greens, which I think caused us, some extra strokes on our scores, just because, it's a definite course that you have to play a few times, really know the layout to be able to score low on, because it definitely takes knowing where to hit it and where not to hit it to be able to score low there.
Yeah, I mean, it starts right off on the first hole, right? I mean, it's a kind of dogleg right, call it a semi-blind tee shot. You kind of hit up over a hill, some bunkering out there that frames it for you, but you don't really know how, like you said, where to hit it, where not to hit it. I think if I remember correctly, you can hit it miles left if you hit it far enough down, but you really have to be cautious up the right side. Or you can just play something a little shorter, kind of back up to the top of the hill where you can still see it, and it doesn't leave you an overly long shot in. So yeah, I mean, I think that if you play it a few times, maybe that's a hole that you get a little bit more aggressive on. Not having played it, I think I hit like 4-iron off the tee, but I mean, overall, just a golf course that, like I said, gives you challenges, gives you some opportunities to score. There's some really, really, really good golf holes out there that are very good tests of golf, and there's some others that you feel like you should make birdie on. I think that's a fun design, especially for what was originally more of, call it a resort course. Which actually, while reading a little bit on the history, Chris, I took a little bit of page out of your playbook and had some time to look over some stuff. I think during the Crooked River Ranch review, you said that it clearly was a 9-hole course originally, right? And they actually have this cool history document for Juniper, and it says Juniper is one of only 6 18-hole courses open to the public in Central Oregon. I think this is back in like the 70s. Bend Golf and Country Club's 18-hole course is private. Mountain High in Bend will open its second 9 next year. Eagle Crest Resort, which we also did a review on, is working on a second 9, so that predates most of what went on at Eagle Crest. And then it said the other courses in Bend, being Crooked River Ranch, Prineville, and Madras, are 9 holes, and Prineville's not open to the public. So there you go. It was confirmed.
You know what the difference is between the two, though? I would never guess that in the current state that Juniper's in, that it was originally just a 9. Because it blends so well together. But again, it's on its 3rd renovation.
Yeah, and I think it's
been built.
I think it's actually the Juniper name is the only thing that stayed with it. The original clubhouse burned down early on. They rebuilt that, and then their lease expired in like the early 2000s, where they actually had to move the entire golf course and redesign the whole thing. So I think it's just the name that stayed with it, and fundamentally the golf course that we played was designed and built in, call it the early 2000s. Which you can see, it has that kind of, call it more modern desert golf feel, right? It's they had better earth-moving technology at that point in time, although I don't think they put a ton of money into the ground trying to keep it relatively affordable, and kudos to them because they certainly hit the mark on that.
You could definitely tell there's been a lot of land movement to create this golf course and to kind of create the landscape that it's in. And, John Horbottle III was the architect for the new course that is in existence at the moment. And any of our guys that have played Cinnabar in the Bay Area, And I'm pretty sure we've done a course review on Cinnabar. It's extremely similar in kind of the risk reward way of playing the course. There are, very challenging holes. I would say Cinnabar is probably more penalizing of a golf course than Juniper was. There was a lot more playable holes, in my opinion, at Juniper, but it's very similar. If anybody gets out to the Tahoe area, it's very similar to Genoa Lakes out there, which I played for my bachelor party a couple years ago. Very desert landscape, wide open, but they utilize the wispy, fescue and the natural sand as the waste areas, and it looks natural, but you can tell land was moved dramatically to create what is there.
Yeah, it sits in what I would call more of a valley. It's very flat all around it. It's not a mountain landscape by any stretch of the imagination. But there's I wouldn't say that there's a ton of elevation change as I think back on it, but there's just a lot of rolling that goes on, a lot of holes that go down and come back up. So, point to point, probably play relatively flat. But to play relatively flat, you play down to play back up.
A lot of raised greens here. I think that's a big thing at Juniper. A lot of the greens were raised. A lot of elevated tee boxes into valleys that then come back up into the fairway to create kind of second tiers into the fairway. A lot of kind of sloping fairways either off the left or the right, or half pipe kind of style fairways that kind of draw the ball into the middle, as long as you're keeping it within the 40-yard parameter left to right. But yeah, the land movement isn't necessarily creating giant elevation changes, but it's just creating flow to where, again, if you're hitting the spots that are designed in the golf course design, and it leads you into where the ball should fall and should play into, I think that's where the elevation and the land movement really changed and created a really good, playable, challenging course. Because again, the land movement is designed to make your ball, place itself into a certain area that allows you either a rewarding shot in, or it's going to eject you and fucking give you one of the more challenging shots you're going to have that entire day. So I think that was kind of the big thing there, which I loved, because it gives you, again, you hit a bad shot, it's going to penalize you. You hit a good shot, it's going to, really reward you and give you a great option into the green.
Couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you want to do the course, if you want to go hole by hole or look at this through a more call it holistic lens. But I think we're in agreement that it's definitely the best course that of the three that we played down there. I'd put it up there in terms of bang for your buck anywhere that I've played. There's just not a lot of courses that you can find they didn't have the black tee markers out. We played at a tee up at, call it 6,700 yards, but you can stretch it out to, call it 72. Greens are in great shape. Fairways were in great shape. Bunkers were in great shape. The only thing bad out there was the golf at times. Had nothing to do with the golf course, just the players on it. So I thought it was really enjoyable, and I don't even remember what we paid, but I think it was like $60.
Yeah, $60. I think it was $75 with cart for me, $60 for you to walk. And again, for that price point, best bang for your buck that I have personally found in Bend. Yeah, pretty much probably best bang for your buck that I found in Oregon. I mean, $60 walking, $75 with a cart. The course conditions were better than most country clubs that I've played in the Oregon area. Better than some of the $125 to $150 rate courses, the Reserve and Pumpkin. I would put Juniper over those every day of the week. I mean, what tells you how good it is we praise a course called Calipe, in the Bay Area all the time. In 2007, when this place reopened and after the redesign from John Horbottle, it actually was 3 spots above it in the best, under $75, dollar rate for all public courses in the United States, which, it was number 7?
I think it was number 6 that year.
Yeah.
Felipe was 9. The best over or second best over 75 course was Abandoned Trails, and best private was Concession. So kind of a good year. When you think of under $75, some good tracks up top. Actually, another one that I've played in Michigan when I was back home for a buddy's bachelor party at Agaming in northern Michigan, which was also a fantastic golf course. And then going down that list, right? I mean, obviously the Abandoned tracks that we'll all get to experience here in March, and Concession. So I don't know. I was shocked when I read about its history and found it a little surprising to see it on, call it the top 10 of something nationwide. But you start thinking back on it, and it does make a lot of sense when you start putting a value or a price tag on it of under $75. It's obviously 15 years ago, but it was probably $50 back then. That's a hell of a deal for locals and people coming in for traveling alike.
Yeah, and I would say we were wowed with it just by, their practice facility. When you come in there, they've got a great putting green that gives you... One thing I really love about a golf course is a putting green that represents the actual greens on the course. Sometimes the greens are a little too fast or they're a little too slow. Because they're heavily used for, people warming up, but then also for people coming out and practicing. They either make them really hard just so that they can survive the amount of torment that they get, or they make them a little bit more shaggy so that, it, again, whatever the superintendent is trying to do to conserve the practice green, and it doesn't always represent what you're going to see on course. And I think it was extremely accurate to what we got when we went out there. And then a grass range is always an added bonus.
Yeah, even the undulations in the putting green, right? You'll see a lot of putting greens, practice putting greens that are, call them tricked up, if you will. A lot of humps and bumps and mounds and tiers and just things that make it hard to find a normal 15-foot putt. Right? A course that you've talked about here in the Bay Area, Corica, for instance. I feel like their putting green, their practice putting green's great. It's massive. But it's kind of hard to find a relatively flat 15-footer to go hit practice putts. And then you get out on both those courses, and generally speaking, the greens are kind of benign, kind of flat. So I liked that Juniper had, like you said, it was indicative of what you find on the golf course. Had some tilt, but not too much. You could find some breakers. You could find some flat putts. It was big enough, but not sprawling. It kind of fit the whole property, man. It was just right.
It was a good start and kind of a good inkling of what we are going to get on the course. And so, leading into that, I don't think I want to go hole by hole here. I could definitely do that because I think both of us love this course so much. But I kind of want to get your top 3 holes that you remember out there.
Top 3 holes, just springing it on me. I'm looking at the scorecard right now, and if I kind of I might have to go more than 3, Chris, to be honest. But I think 4, 9, 11, 15 would, if I had to cut it to 4, that would be the 4, 2 front, 2 back. Happy to take this in any order you'd like, but I think that there's a number of honorable mentions, and hopefully if I do 4 and you do 4, that gets us almost half the golf course, which I think is pretty deserving. There's a couple of transition holes in there. There's one short par 3 I can think of that's just a transition hole to get you from point A to point B, get you to tee off on the next one. But outside of some of those, call them transitions, it's a lot of really good golf in between.
Yeah, let's start off with hole 4 here. That's one that I really remember heavily. I really loved the green complex and the different levels that they were able to put pins on that guy, because it kind of was like a 3-tier, but in the middle it dipped back down, and so they kind of had 2 tiers on either end, and then it dipped down in the middle. So what do you love and remember about 4?
Yeah, I think you might be thinking of 5, if I remember correctly, with that green complex. 4
with
was
kind of the burets in the middle.
Yeah, coming from the left side.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that was 5,
Number 5,
which was also a very good hole. But 4 was, from the tees we played it from, close to drivable. It says on the card 337 at elevation. I think it was one of those holes that played down and then back up. At the bottom of the fairway, it ran out, and then as you came back up towards the green, there was this row of trees that kind of split the fairway in half. So when I lasered those trees, I think it was a little over 300 yards. The pin was a little bit up front, so it was probably only like 315 to the hole. But it was just tight enough, and those trees gave you enough things to look at where if you fly it into the tree, where does it go, to make you want to lay back. So I ended up laying back, playing a wedge onto the green and 2-putting for par. They can stretch it out to 366, which for most people, obviously, it's no longer a drivable par 4. It's just a short par 4. But if you look at it from a tournament aspect and optionality of how you want to play it just on a day-to-day basis, you could move up and play it from the gold tees at 280 or the red tees at 280, and it would still be a great golf hole. You could play it all the way back at 366. I'd argue it's probably a better hole at 280 than it is 366, but you've got options in the middle, 280, 310, 337, 366, and it gives you a great chance to pick and choose how you want to play it, how aggressive you want to be. I just thought it was one of those fun, kind of fringe, drivable par 4s.
It was definitely one of the funner par 4s out there. Again, I think it's hard to choose exactly what were your favorite holes out there, because there were so many good holes. 4 was one of my favorites, but I would say 5 was probably one of my favorite holes on the entire golf course. For me, 5 was basically, so to kind of go back here, 5 is a par 4, plays a little bit longer. So 4 played at about, for us that day, played at about 337. 5 played a little bit longer, 413. Par 4, so stretches it out a little bit. But what I loved about 5 was it was kind of elongated green. Again, we talked with the burets kind of in the middle there. It really challenges you depending on where they put the pin. And I think the day we played, they actually had the pin on the, I'm pretty sure it was on the back tier, because I hit it front of the green, and I ended up having to putt down the burets and then back up onto the back tier. And so it created a much more challenging hole because it already plays decently long for a par 4. But for a guy that doesn't hit it long, that hole can be pretty tight and penalizing if you're not hitting it, if you do not hit it straight on that hole. And so if you're not leading yourself into a good tee or into a good second shot, it creates a very challenging, approach, because the green is so thin and long with the burets in the middle of it that it just creates an insane challenge. And that's kind of what I loved about 5, was it just was a risk reward. You could either bomb a driver, and if you can get it in the fairway, you're going to have a nice short wedge in. But if you try to play back with a 3-wood, you really have to hit a fucking golf shot on that second shot to kind of get it up there and on the right tier of where you're playing it.
Yeah, it's one of those holes that you could challenge it if you wanted to, right? Depending on how far you hit it. 150 is kind of the inflection point for that golf hole off the tee. If you can hit it past the 150-yard marker, you have a decision to make as to whether or not to hit, go full send or lay back a little bit. If you go full send and you hit it past 150, you got to hit a hell of a golf shot. You've got desert, kind of long fescue grass right that's rocky and no good. And out of bounds comes in pretty close on the left. I found that out the hard way. But the out of bounds creeps in pretty close on the left if you get any ball turning that direction. So it's one of those, Chris, as you mentioned, you can't hit it past 150 realistically, or at least I don't think many people would try if they could. So you're left with a 150-plus yard shot into a well-guarded green. It's 2 good golf shots to make a 4 there for sure.
Let's talk about your second favorite hole. Number 9.
Number 9. Number 9's a great hole. I seem to choose holes that I play terribly as my favorite holes. I don't know what that says about me personally, but I'll call a professional tomorrow to work that one out. Number 9 from all the way back plays at 483, and from where we played it from plays about 440 or so. You've got a bunker. It's a little dogleg left. You've got a bunker out on the right side of the dogleg that frames it in, and then water all down the left side. So it's a pretty challenging tee shot. For most of the front 9, you'd been kind of playing your way back into some mounds and trees and weaving your way through, and you come back out to 9, which leads you back to the clubhouse, and you're kind of out in the open again. So we had a little bit more wind at that point in time, and it was one of the first holes that it felt marginally long, just based again on kind of where you're trying to hit it. If you're really confident going full send, you can get it all the way down there and probably make it relatively playable. But you're taking a lot of risk to do that with water left, out of bounds right, or a bunch of kind of a no-go zone right. And then another big sprawling green with multiple tiers or multiple ridge lines, I guess you would call them. So I thought it was one of the more challenging holes on the course. You know me, I'm not a big believer in handicap. It's calling it a let's see here, the 7th handicap hole, with the super long par 5 being the number 1 handicap hole, although it's just a length deal. So I thought it was one of the more challenging opportunities out there. Again, gave you a lot of options. Push it down, don't push it down. Either way, you got to make 2 good swings to make a 4.
And I think pretty much every hole coming in, so 18 and 9, I really loved kind of the finishing holes on this course. I think both of them gave very, very good challenges to come into the clubhouse. 18, I'm just going to kind of skip ahead and skip a little bit. 18 is one of my favorite holes out there. I thought 18 was a really, really incredible hole. 18 was ends on a par 5. From the tips, it plays at 526. Where we played, it's 493. So if you're a long hitter like JD, it is definitely a very scoreable hole. It's fairly wide open. You're really not going to get in insane amount of trouble. You've got a lot of shit that can get you in trouble on the left-hand side. You do have water on the right-hand side, which I personally found off the tee. I hit a nice wipey, tired-ass fade into the water. That was not ideal. But if you're playing it safe, the fairway is fairly wide. So you played along the left-hand side, leave yourself with a nice challenging shot in. That's the only thing. If you're going to go for it, you're going to try to get on in 2. You not only have to clear the corner of a lake, but you also have to clear a front right bunker that is definitely going to gobble up bunkers. So your play is either kind of playing it off to the left to avoid the bunker and the water, or to be able to, if the pin is playing long, then you're just hoping that you get the perfect carry to kind of get onto the green and still have enough height on a 250-yard shot to be able to land the green. So there is a risk reward there where you could go for it. Again, if you're a good sand player, probably not a bad way to go. But most players, especially players like myself that aren't extremely long, probably going to lay it up on the left-hand side, give myself a nice, wedge into the green.
It's definitely an intimidating second shot if you're going for it. We had sat up and had lunch at the clubhouse prior to teeing off, and 18 runs parallel to 9. So those are kind of the 2 greens that you really see from that back patio. And I remember looking at you thinking or saying, 1, this place looks pure, and 2, those greens are really small. And 18 and 9 are a little claustrophobic left to right, especially you're sitting in the fairway on 18 and you're a little bit below the level of the green. Not tremendously. It's not a huge uphill shot by any stretch of the imagination, but the front part of the green kind of runs away from you. So you're not looking at the face of something. And with the green sitting a little bit above you, the pin always seemingly looks like it's just sort of floating out there somewhere, and then it falls off the back. So you never get anything from a depth perception standpoint to be able to say, how much room do I have long? How much room do I have left or right? I can't really see where the green is. But sitting up there having lunch, that if you miss it right, everything kicks right and there's water over there. If you miss it left, everything kicks left and there's junk over there. And there's bunkers in between potentially to catch your ball. But there's a lot of bad areas to hit it, even if you have a manageable club in your hand on both those holes. So they just get a little claustrophobic. It's not overly, obviously at 490 at altitude, not overly long, but it makes you think kind of what golf shot you're going to hit and how are you going to commit to it.
Yeah, and I think that is the epitome of a good golf hole, because it makes you think on the tee box of how you're going to play the hole. Then you get to your second shot, and it gives you multiple options, and like you said, you have to commit. If you don't commit to the shot, you are going to be in fucking bone zone. You're going to easily double bogey that hole. Like, it's going to be an absolute shit show if you're not committed to that second shot. And that's why somebody like myself would most likely go with the layup option on there, because even at elevation, you're still needing a really, really good golf shot to land it on that claustrophobic green.
For sure.
All right. I think it was 14 you were saying was your other hole?
15 if I remember my order correctly. So I want to say, let me just check here. if I can even make out the course layout. I don't know. I want to say 15 was the downhill, slight dogleg right, everything kind of funneled left to right off the tee, and you had water short right of the green. This hole is very narrow off the tee. You have to hit it up the left side. If you hit it up the right side, you're flirting with a lot of really not good stuff and kind of just blocking yourself out. So the way that the hole's kind of designed is the fatter part, and the way I look at golf courses like this, it's not so much the fairway, it's where's the tree line, right? Just keep it inside the tree line and you're okay. And the tree line along the left-hand side is kind of constant and slides a little bit to form that dog leg up towards the green. The tree line on the right-hand side starts a little bit wider, and then as you get towards maybe 150 yards, cuts in a little bit, which is fine. It doesn't mean that if you hit it right, you're completely blocked out. You just have to make a decision if you're going to force it down there and try to get past those, or if you're going to lay it back and leave yourself a shot over. I hit it right in the middle of them and had to hit like this little punchy, like 130-yard 7-iron that went underneath all these branches, and then had to try to somehow fly the water. So it's just it's a hole that, while I said earlier I'm not a huge fan of A to B golf from a desert standpoint, I think absent of being able to use length as a defense, this is a really well defensed hole, in the sense that, again, you have to place it up the left-hand side to have a good look at the green. If you do hit it up the left-hand side, now you've got water more right than carry, which for me I find harder. I'd rather have to carry water than have it off to the right. And two, the green coming from that left side almost creates a shelf issue where the front part of the green banks back towards you and the back part of the green banks away from you. So if you're standing in the middle of the fairway, it really banks left from the center of the green, banks left from the center of the green, banks right, depending on which way you're going. But if you hit it up that left-hand side, you're kind of flipping that and playing into a slope. So it just makes it tough to control a wedge or a short iron going in, all while having water in play. So I just thought, I think this is also one of the holes that it might be their flagship hole they use on all their pictures and whatnot, with kind of the landscape and water all around. But I thought that and the hole before were just two really, really good par fours back to back.
I'm with you, and as anybody that listens to our podcast on a regular basis knows, I am always going to talk about my favorite type of hole, short par 4. Number 12, 270 from where we played. I don't know, you guys know, I just love a short par 4. Anything that's gettable, that's going to force half of your foursome to go for it, the other guys to lay up and play it multiple different ways, always is going to, get on my radar. And I think number 12 was an impeccable short par 4. It really makes you think off the tee box, because it's blocked out with kind of waist area and, a bunker, short left of the green. You have a really nice safe landing area if you do want to lay it up. That gives you a nice entry, but basically the green sits just left of the tip of the fairway, so it's not necessarily a dog leg because you have a straight line at the green, but the green is very small. It runs, basically, left to right of the tee box, so it's extremely small to be able to land it on. If you do end up going for it, you're most likely going to end up either being just short of it in that bunker, or you're going to have it, because it was a bit turtle backed as well. So if you hit it long, then you're hitting up onto this turtle back, hoping to stick it. So, I think on that hole myself, I laid up 3-wood, hit a wedge in, and I ended up parring that hole. I think, JD, you hit your hybrid or driving iron on that guy and just put it out in play, kind of did the same thing.
Yeah, I hit 4-iron there. That was almost, again, at elevation, it's tough to know how far the ball is going to go. Hindsight being 2020, it probably would have been more like a kind of a slappy driving iron to try to get it as far up there as you can. I'm going to disagree with you slightly in the sense that I think most people are giving this one a go. I don't think there's too much of a decision in the idea that, if you're playing the proper tees, you're looking at the forward tees are 199. A lot of people can get there at 199, right? 252 from the whites, 262 from where we played it from. 262 to the middle means you're looking at probably, well, I could tell you, the 12th green, you're looking at a little under 250 to the front edge. Again, at elevation, so probably playing closer to 225 at sea level. You're bringing a lot of people into an ability to drive a green where they probably don't normally get that chance. Everyone's taking a swing for it, and you should. There isn't really enough penalty up there to not go for it, and I actually think the wedge shot from the bottom of the fairway, if you truly lay back, is just as hard, because you have to hit back up the hill. It would be almost a blind second shot. So I think it's one of those like no-brainer, pull out whatever club. If it's the big stick, it's the big stick, but pull it out and go for it. If you do, you're probably going to miss the green because it's a really hard green to hit even with a wedge, and you're going to be tested with a really chippy, tricky kind of little wedge in, which I think is fun, right? Even if you go back and play it again, like I said, I don't think laying back is easier. So I just think trying to get as much view of the green as possible, and the off chance you happen to get one on or around the green, it's well worth the risk of not.
I guess it was more because it was the first course that we played being in Bend, so neither one of us knew kind of what our ball was doing all day.
Could have been the ultra strong fours at the turn too.
Yeah. Oh,
that was about the time that had gone ahead and struck a chord with me.
That was incredible. So I will say we'll talk about food and beverage kind of at the end, but man, well worth your money getting a drink at the bar and grill there, because she easily gave us quads for the price of a double, and it might have been even more than that. It might have been like 3/4 of our cup were straight alcohol.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
But yes, a very good hole, no less.
Very good hole. And you know what? I think all in all, Juniper, was a very, class act property. The guys all the way from working in the clubhouse to the old man as the starter, and the people running the food and beverage. All in all, Juniper was great. The only thing I think I would give it a little bit of a negative on would be their merch. They didn't have a very well-stocked pro shop. It was kind of bare bones. You could tell for being a Bend course, and it could just be that, again, you've been to Bend multiple times. You didn't even know of Juniper existing. It could just be that there's they're overlooked as one of the best courses in Bend because there are so many options and there are so many big name architects that have designed courses in Bend that draw a lot of people to it. So maybe the merch side of things don't take off as much as the Tethros and the Pronghorns and, you know, the big staple things that bring people to Bend. But for me, myself, and how much I loved it, I was really stoked, wanted to pick something up, and I just felt like they were lacking a little bit. But that's me being particular. All in all, 9.5 out of 10 experience when it comes to Juniper.
Yeah, I think that the facilities overall looked like what you would expect from a club that was trying to target, call it the middle or bottom end of call it the more affordable market, right? They're not going for, even in one of the press releases when they redid the course, it was, I think, $3.5 million is what they put into it, which, don't get me wrong, it's no small sum, but I think if most people were to ask themselves how much does it cost to build a golf course, that would not be the number that you land on. Probably would be fairly north of that. With the whole idea being, if you don't spend a lot on unnecessary frills, you can deliver a really good experience on course for people that's what they're looking for. So I agree. I think overall the facilities are a little kind of meh, right? I mean, the food and beverage area is your typical kind of 19th hole pub at a muni course, right? Real open, kind of one bar off in the corner. That's not to say it's bad. It's just the golf course is deserving of something much more upscale. But then you're looking at a different crowd. So I think the benefit and you know, Chris, to give you and Ashton a lot of kudos in what you do is courses like this, maybe if they could find a niche within the marketplace, they could advertise to that. And then maybe the merch follows suit, right? Where it doesn't have to be ultra high end, but something that is definitively theirs, right? You guys always talk about logos and what logos you like. I think things that can definitively become Juniper would be very cool. And I would highly encourage, I mean, listen, I've taken buddies trips to Bend and I've played the Pronghorns and the Tetheros and the nice tracks in the area. If you're not from Bend, it means you're driving at least 2+ hours to get there. If you and some buddies are driving 3, 4, 5, flying in, whatever that may be, and you're going to play Tethero and you're going to play Pronghorn and you're going to play some of these other places, build in an extra day and make this your fun, kind of laid back, either start or finish to your trip. I promise you're not going to be disappointed. It's 2 minutes away from the airport, so it's super easy to navigate flights in, flights out. Great meeting place coming in, or great place to say your goodbyes and go your separate ways back to the airport. It's not to the same, call it, difficulty or visual stimulation as some of those other courses, but exactly what you're looking for to start or end a buddy's trip. This is definitely a place that you should go check out.
100%. It even would be great if you were going to throw something like our, cookout and do, a 36 man, Ryder Cup style tournament. It would be affordable. The food would be just right. Breakfast sandwiches, French dips, right in the middle price point to where it would be affordable to add this to anybody's trip. And if you're trying to play an upscale, upper echelon course for a reasonable price and do a buddy's trip that doesn't break the bank and doesn't charge you the Tethero Pronghorn prices, Juniper should be at the top of your list going to Bend and playing an affordable golf course that's at the upper echelon of course design and maintenance in the entire area. I would say Tethero, no matter if you're going upscale and playing the most expensive courses out there, if you're going on a budget-friendly, excursion with your buddies, this should always be in the itinerary every time you go to Bend.
And if you say it, Crooked River Ranch, you might see Big Chris and family roaming around based on the way you described that facility as your new go-to summer vacation spot. No, I completely agree. You should go play it. Pick a tee. Pick what tee makes the most sense for you. You're going to have fun no matter which one you play. Switch it up. Play a game with your buddies. But great greens, great facility, great practice range. Overall, I don't have any complaints. Pro shop could have been a little more well stocked, but I'm not looking for much. I came fully stocked and ready to go. Just needed a good golf course to play, and they certainly delivered on that.
Absolutely. And JD, as always, thank you so much for coming on, chatting about this. This was a super, super fun trip to have you come on and be able to play. And we got many more trips coming up. So we'll be getting together here soon, very, very quickly.
I'm looking forward to it, my man. It was great to see you this past weekend as well. Happy birthday. I'll talk to you soon, but give the wife my best, and best of luck through everything here coming up. You have some fun things coming up for you.
Oh yes, I'm excited to be Papa Big C. Well, it's coming up quick. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a good night. Late.